Hello scholars, I hope all is well. I am presenting this brief lecture via lecture capture in a PowerPoint on ethics, risk management, and field. I thought this subject matter was important enough for me to do this short lecture. As you can tell, we meet once per month, and as such we're not always going to have enough time to cover some of the information and material that I think would be very useful for you in field. And one of these things obviously deals with ethics, and in this case ethics, risk management in field. So I'd like to move into this topic matter, and let's take a look at this. So ethics, risk management, exactly what is that? In the context of social work, malpractice is defined as an omission or commission resulting in a harm to a client. As such, malpractice can occur when a social worker acts in a negligent manner or fails to perform according to the acceptable level of care. Cohen and then Reamer in 1989. So within social work, research indicates that malpractice complaints are made against supervisors as a result of actions of their supervisees, i.e. you. These complaints are based on the legal principle of vicarious liability, which states that supervisors can be held liable for the actions of their supervisees. For a supervisor to be held liable for the actions of a supervisee, two conditions must be met. The supervisor must have the authority to supervise the supervisee, and the supervisee must be acting as a representative of the agency. And 100% of the times with you being in field, you, the supervisee, are acting as a representative of the agency. That is one of the reasons why we sign those memorandums of understandings, and another reason why we cover you with insurance, because this aspect of the practice is important. And sometimes hence why I sometimes say, do we have an application on file? Do we have an MOU on file? Because we want to make sure that we're covering, first of all, the clients, we're covering you, the school, and all other parties who could possibly be sued if something were to happen in field. So areas of potential liability in field education. So as you can see, here are some areas. This is not an exhaustive list, and I put a link there where you can also visit the Georgia Composite Board, where I think they provide a complete list. But these are some things that I thought, some of the items that I extrapolated from that list that I felt were important for you to know. So as you can see, failure to notify clients of your student status, incorrect interventions, improper disclosure of information, failure to protect a third party, failure to prevent suicide, failure to refer clients to a specialist, professional misconduct, and there's a whole list of that, right, from having interactions with the client in an inappropriate manner, and we can just list a whole host of other things. Failure to report child abuse and neglect. And this is an area sometimes if you are dealing with children, or even if you're not dealing with the children directly, and you are informed of a situation of neglect and you do not report it, you can be held liable as well. So I think one of the key things here, because we talk about ethics and ethical dilemmas, and ethics, again, there's no black and white. There's a lot of gray in ethics. Ethics is couched in the reality that individuals have certain values and morals. So let's take a look at the ethical rules consideration process. So as you can see in step 1, when you are confronted with an ethical dilemma, the first thing to consider is, what is the ethical issue in conflict with, and who are the persons involved? This is critical to that first step. Examine and analyze the codes of ethics. And in this case, we're talking about the NSAW codes of ethics first and foremost. Then you can utilize the NSAW code of ethics and the International Code of Ethics. We live here in the United States, so the main source obviously would be the NSAW code of ethics. What then? We also want to look at what does the law say, because there can be the code of ethics may espouse or promote one set of values, and the law may be in contradiction with that. But the first thing to remember is that the law supersedes all codes. And here's why I say seek additional advice as well. So, if one or more of the ethical standards apply, follow the codes of ethics. If local, state, or federal law give clear guidance, follow the law. There may be situations where there are no clear guidance in terms of what the state, federal, or local law, but your code of ethics is very clear, then you would follow that. If not, you would follow the law. Another key thing to consider really is step number 3. So if the code does not address a specific issue, or several codes or policies provide conflicting guidance and there is no known laws addressing this issue, here are some things I want you to consider as well. As you're making that ethical consideration and decision, consider protection of life, equality versus inequality in the decision you're about to make, autonomy and freedom. What is this ethical dilemma? And based on this ethical dilemma, does it cause the least harm, or will it be harmful to the clients or individuals involved? Does it promote and enhance the quality of life or diminishes that? And what are the concerns around privacy and confidentiality? There are times when you have to break confidentiality, and that leads into truthfulness and full disclosure. It is important that we tell our clients ahead of time that there may be times when we may have to reveal certain things in terms of privacy and confidentiality, but obviously it has to be within the guidelines in terms of what you are revealing to a third party. So these are some things to consider. Then, step 5, which is, before acting, discuss who, how, what, and when the action will be taken. Is this something that you're going to do? Is this something that your field supervisor is going to do? Is this something that you have to inform a third party? But all those things should be discussed before the actual action is taken. And once that action is taken, step 6 I think is critical and important to you as a social work student, scholar, and future practitioner. Follow up and debrief. Self-reflection. So how do we avoid issues like this in the future? And what actions do we need to take? For instance, creating new policies or steps that will be implemented to avoid future incidences like this, and consider who will evaluate this. I think if we follow these 6 steps in terms of the ethical decision making and ethical rules consideration, it will help us out tremendously as we deal with ethical considerations in field and beyond. Here's a case study that I would like you to process on your own and then apply in terms of the questions on your right in terms of the case. I think this vignette will also help you as well, because there are going to be times when you are faced with an ethical dilemma. And again, ethics and ethical dilemmas are not black and white. There's a lot of gray. They're couched in values, personal values, professional values, and issues around the law. And sometimes these things are hard to decipher. But with that ethical screening model that I presented, I think it will be helpful for you in your future endeavors in field and beyond. So once again, hope that you find this brief lecture important to you and useful to you. All the best to you in field.